The history of meetings with a hysteric. When you thought that? Seriously, when one mom yelled at me because I apologized to her. She and her family were taking up the entire bike path, including the shoulder. To avoid hitting any of them, I rode onto the shoulder and apologized as I passed by. I didn't touch her, and she didn't have to move aside because I managed to slip past. Nevertheless, after I rode by, she started screaming all sorts of nonsense after me. She didn't expect me to stop abruptly and ask what was wrong. She quickly hid behind her husband and didn't even look at me. So much energy, and for what? A similar situation happened to me when I lived in India. We lived in an apartment building, and I had to ride my bike through the hallway. One day, my sister and I finished riding, and my sister accidentally rode past some crazy local mom. My sister is deaf and was very young at the time, so I apologized to that woman out of pure politeness and went outside to play with friends. This insane hysteric followed me to the playground and started hurling insults at me, like, "I'll strip your mom naked and beat her in front of everyone, and I'll knock the __ out of you and your sister." I was only 13 at the time, so I ran away, scared to death and crying my eyes out. I worked at Disney World in guest services. It's 9 a.m. and a woman comes in demanding a refund for a turkey leg she bought from us because it tastes weird. We ask for her details to process the refund, and it turns out she bought it 3 days ago and has been carrying the meat in her bag ever since. A couple came into a movie theater 15 minutes after the film started. The woman sat next to me and talked loudly, while her husband mostly ignored her. I politely asked her to speak more quietly because she was distracting me from the movie. She stared at the screen for a couple of minutes, then turned to me and said, "Maybe if you didn't eavesdrop on my conversation, you wouldn't be distracted." I was too furious to respond, and the session was ruined. I worked in fast food. One day, a woman came in and ordered 2 sandwiches. When I started making them, she said she forgot her money at home but would bring it later because she lived around the corner. It takes about 10 minutes to prepare the sandwiches. I said, "No problem, when you come back, they'll be ready." She insisted on taking the sandwiches first and said she'd bring the money after she and her daughter ate. I told her, "If you live around the corner, you'll be back before they're done. I can't give you the food until you pay." She freaked out and left without the sandwiches. It was wild. She never came back. In my class, there was this one idiot girl who constantly disrespected the teacher. Once, during a lecture, she started whistling. The teacher, bewildered, stopped the lesson and asked why she was doing it and disrupting the class. She said it was involuntary, then whistled again and said, "See?" I worked as a cashier in a store in a college town. People mostly came to buy energy drinks, gum, and stuff like that, though we sold various items, like hoodies and even computers. Since students usually made small purchases, we didn't have shopping carts or baskets. One day, a woman, probably a student's mom, came in and asked me to help her get a sweater from the top shelf. I grabbed it and was about to hand it to her, but she asked me to hold it. She kept walking around the store, picking up various items and handing them to me. She shopped for about 10 minutes, using me as her personal shopping cart. Luckily, I had a colleague working the same shift, so he could cover the register. At the end of this ridiculous situation, her phone got a text. She read it and said, "I need to meet my son. I'll come back later for the stuff I need." Then she left, and I was left standing there with an armful of random items that I had to put back on the shelves. Seriously, a female client came to pay for a few lessons. While processing the payment, I accidentally inserted her card with the magnetic strip facing up. I had to swipe it again. She threw a fit, claiming I charged her twice. As she paused her tantrum to catch her breath, I just sat there, monotonously repeating, "The payment only went through once." I worked at a hotel front desk. A woman handed me her debit card to pay for her room. I inserted it into the terminal, which takes about a minute to read the data and process the payment. To save time, I started making her room key card while the terminal was processing. It's a standard magnetic strip key card used to open the room. Our keycard programmer was old and made loud noises while working, and due to its condition, I often had to swipe the card 3 times to program it correctly. I handed the woman her bank card and 2 room key cards. She started yelling, "What the hell did you just do?" Caught off guard and confused, I said, "I'm sorry?" She repeated, "What the hell did you do?" I replied, "I'm just giving you the keys to your room, ma'am." I just need your signature, and you're all set." Then she called the police. I had no idea what was going on. I tried to ask what she was doing, but she said, "I'm not saying another word to you until the police arrive." I know my rights. Fine. Then she went to the lobby to wait for the police. A few minutes later, she returned with an officer, pointed at me, and said, "That's her. That's her." I was the only employee at the front desk. It turned out she thought I swiped her bank card multiple times and charged her thousands of dollars. The officer came behind the desk and asked me to repeat the process I did with the key card programmer. The machine made its beeping sound, and he asked her if that was the sound she heard. She shouted, "Yes, you see." He explained that it was the sound of the keycard programmer, and I hadn't done anything with her bank card. She stood there staring at him for a second, turned red, grabbed her stuff, and ran out, yelling, "I don't have to listen to this nonsense." She left the keys and unsigned documents behind. A few hours later, she called, accusing me of trying to rob her again. 20 years ago, a girl tried to fight me at a bar. I only looked at her in a friendly way, unintentionally. I came to the bar, ordered a drink, and accidentally glanced at her while lost in thought. Anyway, she challenged me to a fight outside. I couldn't believe it. I'm 190 centimeters tall, and she was tiny. The bouncer overheard everything and kicked her out. She was still outside the bar an hour later when we left. She followed me to my car, pushing and hitting me in the back. It felt surreal. One girl in my class loved using perfume at every opportunity, even though the girl sitting next to her was very sensitive to scents. One day, she sprayed so much perfume that her desk neighbor started coughing and then got a migraine. She was sent to the nurse's office to recover. When the teacher asked the girl why she did it, she said, "What's the big deal? It's not my fault. I've been working at a Halloween costume store for the last 5 years. It was my first year there, and I was about 20. A couple of days before Halloween, a girl around my age came in and picked out a classic schoolgirl costume. She said something like, 'Oh, we're about the same size.' That's good because I didn't have time to find an assistant. I smiled, took the costume, and thought, what does that even mean? I removed the packaging and put it in a basket to take to the fitting room. She looked embarrassed, so I just offered to lead her to the fitting room. I wish I misheard, but this girl seriously said, 'Why would I want to watch you try it on?' I don't even remember exactly how I responded because I was so confused. It was something like, 'You're trying on the costume to see how it fits. I'm not doing it for you.' And this girl had the audacity to get mad at me when I refused. She said she didn't want to take off her clothes to try on the costume because it wasn't worth her time, and it was unhygienic since tons of people had tried it on. Then she changed her mind and left. I was walking my dog. My dog doesn't like kids. We approached a woman and her young child. I saw the kid was about to try to pet my dog, so I crossed to the other side of the street to avoid any issues. The mother yelled, "What, my kid can't pet your dog?" As if her kid has the right to touch any dog they want. I said, "My dog doesn't get along with kids, sorry." She shouted back, "I don't give a ___." I was stunned. Honestly, I thought about it for the rest of the walk. But if I had let her kid approach my dog, they probably would have been bitten. I worked at a bowling alley that served food like a full restaurant. In my role, I delivered food to guests and took dirty dishes to the kitchen. A group of 6 people came in and ordered a sampler platter with mini portions of all the appetizers, a little bit of everything. I brought the dish to their table and asked if they needed anything else. Without looking at me, a woman said, "No." As I started to turn away, she grabbed my arm, pulled me toward her like I was her kid, and said, "Where the hell are my chicken wings?" I couldn't believe this was happening. I looked at the platter and said, "They're right in front of you, ma'am, in that small dish." She let go of my arm and, with a skeptical look, said, "Fine," as if she didn't believe the wings were there. I work at a well-known restaurant, and it was my first shift as a cook. I had worked in the kitchen before and could handle any task, but this was my first time working alone. It was a hectic night, and we were short-staffed. By the time the crowd thinned out, I was sweating and exhausted. I had been standing over 8 burners for about an hour in hellish heat. I decided to take a break and eat lunch. I was sitting in the break room with the air conditioner on full blast, which I desperately needed. My colleague, who was working the register that day, went on her lunch break 15 minutes after me. She saw me and demanded I get out of her spot. She claimed being a cashier was harder than being a cook because she had to deal with people. When I said I wasn't moving, she cursed me out and acted like a __ for the rest of the evening. It took all my strength not to slap her. Instead, I told my colleagues, who reported it to management. She was fired soon after for stealing. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss new, super interesting discussions. Become our patron via the link in the description to listen to our episodes in the background without ads or censorship, plus exclusive spicy episodes that didn't make it to YouTube due to platform restrictions. In the meantime, check out our other videos.